Hello and welcome to Salute. We're here at the Lady Lake Legion, and today we're filming this episode of Salute on D-Day, June 6th, 2014, 70 years ago, the greatest assault for freedom ever. And I have the honor of having a World War II veteran with me, Mr. Bill Whipp. I want to thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
I didn't get to meet you before. You had spoken in a church. I heard about you, and I asked you to come on, and I'm glad you took up my invite. I see you're wearing your dog tag still?
Yeah, every D-Day I put them on. Just take them out of the drawer and put them on, just to remember, put them back.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, Bill. Where are you originally from?
I'm from Englewood, New Jersey. I was born there on July 21st, 1926. And,
July 21st?
Yeah.
Hey, we have the same birthday.
Are you kidding?
No.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So, Ernest Hemingway, too, also.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to you.
Yeah, okay. So, and I lived in Englewood, New Jersey, went to school, went through grammar school in Leonia, and then went back to Englewood. And then I got my greetings when I was 18. I was down at Point Pleasant lifeguarding. So, instead of going back to school, I was in my senior year. I didn't want to sit in class and wait for the boot to drop. So I went down and enlisted. And said, I want to go now and get it over with. So then I had basic training down here in Florida, never realizing that someday I'd be living here.
Yeah.
So then we got over there. We were replacements because I was wound up in the 4th Infantry Division, 22nd Infantry Regiment, 3rd Battalion, Company L. And they went through the Hurtchicken Forest and lost 6,000 troops. So we were the replacement. So I didn't join them until halfway through the Battle of the Bulge. It was in January. And it went from there all the way to the end. And we were in a lot of snow.
You were at the Battle of the Bulge?
Yes.
Wow.
Not the whole, the Battle of the Bulge was from the 15th of December to the 28th of January. I got there the last 2 weeks in January, so I was in part of it. So then we went from there all the way down, wound up in Bavaria at the end of the war. But we liberated Krakow on 29th of April, 1945. That was the most emotional day of my life during the war. And but then after I got out of the Army, I got into the aerospace industry.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about the Battle of the Bulge. Right after the Battle of the Bulge, you say you went all the way through Europe. Is that it, or?
Yeah, until the end of the war, I was with them.
So I mean, you must have seen a lot. How long were you over there?
I was there from 6 months.
6 months?
January to July.
And then, but you also said Krakow. That was.
Okay, yeah, you want to hear about that? Yeah.
Well, I'd like to, because you know I really do appreciate what World War II people did, and I know how that being liberated, had to be quite an emotional event.
Okay, the day before we were to liberate Krakow, our CO came around and told us that we were going to liberate a concentration camp the next day. So, and he told us we're going to see sights that we weren't used to. So the next day, we arrived at Krakow. And our job, we were on a sweep, and we were under the command of Patton. And George liked to sweep a lot.
When you say sweep, for the people who don't know, what do you mean by that?
We're moving 90 miles an hour. We were going. We're sweeping everybody in front of us, chasing the Germans. We were on a sweep. Instead of sitting in the foxhole for 2 weeks, we were sweeping. We were moving, and he liked to keep moving. He always liked to be the first one there.
Yeah.
In fact, he made bets with other generals that he'd get there first. Anyway, in the afternoon of the 29th, we came up and we knocked on the door. Our job in L Company, each squad was to pick a barracks and check what was in it. The rest of the troops were going through the whole camp, and there was another division, the 7th, I think, along with us. But our job was to just check a barracks and then take off again. So we went up and knocked on the door of the barracks and went in. And we just stood there staring, because what we were looking at were skeletons. They were human skeletons. I could take my hand and wrap it around the guy's leg up here. So then they were staring back at us. So to break the silence, I said, "Sprechen Sie English? Verstehen Sie English?" And two of the skeletons got off their bunks and came over and said to me, "Between the two of us, we understand and speak English." I said, "Good. First, I want you to know that we're the Americans. We're the good guys. We want you to tell all the other friends in here that they're free now. They don't have to worry about the Germans anymore." And he started to cry. And he looked at me and he said, "We thought today we were all going to die." And I said, "No, it's not going to happen." I said, "You're free now. Now tell all the rest of the guys that," because they're all looking at us very nervously. They got that nervous look on them.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there was fear in their,
yeah.
in
So
their eyes.
he started telling them, and the atmosphere changed a little bit. Now they were looking at each other and looking at us. The body language was, "Is this for real?" So to break it up now, we started milling around and we emptied out our pockets of all the cigarettes and candy bars we had. We gave them that. And they started breaking up the candy bars in little pieces so they could share. And they were starting to smoke American cigarettes. And my friend, the skeleton, came back to me and said, "I'm sorry. Thank you for the cigarettes and the candy bar, but I'm sorry we don't have anything to share with you or to give you, except..." And he turned around and went back 10 feet, squatted down on the floor, pulled up a floorboard, reached down and pulled out a bottle. And he came back to me and said, "Vodka. We make our own vodka out of potatoes. It's good vodka. Please share vodka with us." So I took a swig, and it must have been 190 proof because it felt like a hot coal going down. Yeah. And now, while he was doing that, two skeletons were pulling bottles out of the floor. So now the whole atmosphere in the barracks was going 180 degrees. And they were all beginning to realize that this was for real. And they were coming around and they were hugging us and shaking hands, and two of them kissed me on the cheek. And if you've ever been hugged and kissed on the cheek by a skeleton, you haven't lived yet.
Yeah.
So this is what was going on. And an officer came in and he said, "We're regrouping in 15 minutes. And he looked around and shook his head and turned around and went out again. So 10 minutes later, we told all the skeletons, "We have to go now because we're on a sweep. But there are other troops in the camp now that will take care of you, food and clothing and whatnot. So we have to say goodbye." And we all got hugged again and off we went. A week later, we wound up down in Bavaria at the foothills of the Italian Alps, down the road from Hitler's Berchtesgaden. And they told us, "Stack the arms, the war is over. Germans just surrendered. So take the day off and relax outside." And it was snowing a little bit. And these 6 Russian tanks came down the road and stopped. And out of the tanks came these hefty Russian women. And they all had some of them had bottles of vodka in their hand, Russian vodka. So there we were,
Party time.
a week later, being hugged by these hefty women and drinking vodka. And all I could think about was our friends, the skeletons up in Krakow, and how they were doing, if they were all right. And then 3 months later, I got on a boat on July the 4th and wound up 7 days later coming up the Hudson River on the 11th of July. And 10 days later, I celebrated my 19th birthday at home.
That'd be a good feeling, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
So, tell me, how, it had to be kind of emotional at the church, eh? With the story you guys told.
Oh, yeah.
Have you contacted any other people that you knew in the service, or were
No,
liberated or anything? You never saw anybody
I
again?
only contact. 2 years ago, I finally relocated my old foxhole buddy, Harry Regenbach. And I got a hold of his wife, answered the phone, and I said, "This is Bill Whipp. I was Harry's foxhole buddy." And she said he just died 2 months ago. So I missed. So I have a brick in the memorial park for Harry.
Here in the village.
Yeah, but most of them, they're all,
Yeah.
we've all gone our way, you know. We all say when we're there, we're all gonna meet. We were all gonna meet at the top of the Empire State Building, you know, after the war. But we never did. Just everybody just goes off in a different.
Well, your life
And
goes
then
on,
we
right?
that's right. Life goes on. We get married, go to work, and so you kind of lose track. So Harry was the only one that I finally relocated. Too late.
Yeah.
So, but there's another funny story. We were going so fast that the supplies couldn't keep up with us. This is before we got to Krakow. And it was snow. There was we were in a lot of snow. And we're sitting in the foxhole griping about they couldn't keep up with the supplies. Couldn't keep up with us. We were wound up with maybe one bandolier of ammo and 2 hand grenades in the foxhole at night. And I was griping about, we don't even have any toilet paper. So my squad leader said, "Well, Willie, stop moaning about it. Why don't you go find some?" So I was like, "Okay." So I got up and took off. There was a farmhouse down. We were on the edge of the woods. So I went up and knocked on the door of this farmhouse. I wasn't worried about too much Germans because we were pushing them fast. And so this lady opened the door, and I said, "Hello, Frau. Du haben Sie Toilet and Papier bitte?" And she looked, and then she cracked up. Here's this peach fuzz kid with his helmet and rifle. He's asking her for toilet paper, and it's snowing out. So she said, "It's a house coming in." So I went inside, and she made me a cup of coffee. And then she gave me three rolls of toilet paper, and I went back to the foxhole, a hero. I gave one foxhole 2 rolls. That was my toilet paper caper, I call that.
Yeah, the toilet paper caper.
Yeah. So during the war, there were funny parts besides all the bad parts.
Yeah, I'm sure. And,
Yeah.
and Eisenhower, he had made sure that a lot of that got photos taken.
Yeah,
correct?
well, a lot of the people didn't believe, they couldn't believe it, you know. They said, "No, that's not so." So he made sure they all came through the camps. And I think Dachau was one of the first concentration camps. It was about 20 or 30 miles northwest of Munich. And I think that was one of the, but he had all the people go through. And it was hard. When we were on a sweep through Krakow, we never got to see the bad parts. We didn't see all the bodies piled up because we were just supposed to go through a barracks, each squad in the company go through a barrack and then take off again. Because we were on one of George's sweeps.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to stop. But there were plenty others coming after us that would take care of food and clothing and whatnot for the poor guys that were there already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway.
I tell you, I can't imagine what went on in humanity to man.
Well, when we first walked into that barracks and stood there, and we were staring. We shouldn't have been doing that, but we were shocked. And my body was transferred back to the 7th grade in Nellie Ruddock's class in Leonia, New Jersey. And when she asked me in class one day, what do you remember about the history we were learning that year? And I said, man's inhumanity to man. That's all I could think of when I was looking at these guys. Because I keep calling them skeletons, but that's what they were. I mean, you could see the bones and everything. They didn't even, I mean, there was nothing there but the bones with skin on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just, you couldn't believe how much damage the body could take and still live.
Yeah, the will to survive.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, I give you guys a lot of credit, and I'm sure there's a lot of people all over the world who really want to thank you for what you guys did. And I just,
well, it was,
I can't, I've seen pictures of it, but it's got to be something else to really be there like you were.
I know. See, we come from a whole different generation too.
Yeah.
We were brought up with Andy Hardy. We used to come out of the movies laughing, and now you come out of the movies and when I call Pop the first guy who looks at you cross-eyed because all they have is violence.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff going on.
Oh yeah, I know.
Unfortunately, it doesn't get in the newspapers too much, but
I know.
There's a lot of good stuff going on.
And my brother and I used to get into arguments. He was an investigative reporter for the Hartford Courant. And I used to say, Teddy, why don't they print some nice stories once in a while in a newspaper? And he'd say, that doesn't sell newspapers.
I've heard that
Yeah,
said,
well, that was it, But
so you got out when the war ended, and
I was in, when they broke up the 4th Division, we were in Camp Landing, Florida. Excuse me. And they broke up the division and sent us all over the place, and I wound up down at Fort Benning, Georgia. And I stayed there until I got released, got discharged. And we were in Fort Benning about 2 days when we heard the story about the CO, what he did one time. We were next to Columbus, Georgia, and on payday, the jail was always full. If you tripped on the curb, they'd pull you in for being drunk. This is only on payday, see?
Yeah. So
the commanding officer, this sounds like something Patton would do, but it wasn't Patton. He got in a General Sherman tank and drove it into the city of Columbus, pulled up in front of the jail and turned the howitzer around. And he said over the speaker, I want every GI out of that jail in 5 minutes or I'm coming through the front door. And after that, they had 2 MPs with every cop in Columbus.
It didn't bother you that much anymore.
See, that's something like.
So after you got out of the Army, your career,
I went back and finished high school in Teaneck.
Good for you.
I went back, finished high school, and then I went to Illinois to college. I only had 1 year of college. You take a kid out of school, send them over, teach them how to kill everybody and do things in a war, bring them back and say, okay, now be normal again.
Yeah.
I used to drive, when I first came back, I was driving down the street in a car, and the car next to me backfired, I went through the ceiling. I mean, and then, so anyway, I got married and moved back to New York. Got a job at TWA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah.
What did you do with them?
I was in the cargo sales office. And then I was changed over to LaGuardia Airport as a collection agent and a skip tracer. And then we got so many passes a year, and I used to fly for $10. I'd fly from LaGuardia to Los Angeles for $10. So my first
You can't even park your car for that now.
Yeah. So I had an uncle out in California, and I fell in love with California. So I said, someday I'm going to move there. And I finally did. In 1955, I moved to California. And was there.
Somewhere along the line, you came back to Florida.
Yeah, well, it's moved to California in 55 and left. I was starting to collect my Social Security check, and the aerospace industry went belly up after the war ended, Cold War ended. I was all wrapped up in Sidewinder missiles. Well, they didn't need those anymore, so.
Yeah.
And my second wife's father lived in the villages. And I couldn't get away from work because I was indispensable.
Yeah.
So Patsy would come here, visit her father, and one time I did manage. And I was out driving up a dirt road across the street, and I saw this fence with cows behind it. And I went to the sales office and said, I want that lot. So I bought the lot, and 3 years later, we moved here.
Mm-hmm.
And I retired. So I've been here ever since.
So I see by your shirt, you've been on an honor flight.
I was on an honor.
I had the opportunity to go to those
Yeah.
too. What was your thoughts about it?
Well, you know Tom Brokaw's book, The Greatest Generation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was reading The Greatest Generation Speaks. And I'm reading it, and all of a sudden I'm saying, holy cow, that's little Annie Maloney that lived across the street from me in Englewood.
Mm.
She was this little kid. Her father was Ed Maloney, and he was 34 years old, and he was an MP, and he was over guarding the piers, the boats in the piers. And he finally went to his commanding officer and said, look, my wife's pregnant, and I don't know what it is, what it's going to be, but one day it's going to say to me, Dad, what did you do in the war?
Yeah.
And he said, I want to get away from the boats and get over there. So they sent him over there, and Ed got killed. So Annie, the story in the book was told by Annie that she never saw her father.
Yeah.
But it gave her married name in which she was living.
Yeah.
So I got on the phone information, and I got a hold of her. I said, Annie, this is Skip. Oh my God. I said, you know, I just read all about your story in the book, in Tom Brokaw's book. Yeah. So then when I got the chance to go on the honor flight, I called up and told her I was coming to the honor flight. She said, oh, I'll meet you there. So every guy in the plane had to have a helper.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
I called him my nanny. That was Joe Neal. He was my nanny, and we were going all through on a bus tour through the.
It was a great.
Washington.
I don't mean to interrupt you,
Yeah.
sir, because believe me.
I know I could talk forever.
Well, I'd love to listen to you forever, but I'm out of time.
I used to be very quiet. Now you can't shut me up.
Yeah, I'm out of time though. That's
well,
the problem. So,
that's okay.
But I have to say goodbye. And
Okay.
Would you like to join me? I thank you for saving the world.
It was a pleasure being here, Bob.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
this is how we say goodbye.
Okay.
So all our active military out there and our veterans, we salute you for all you do. Till next time.